Uh, there you go.
Got it. We're live.
Nice.
Hey. So obviously we've just had a conversation about this, but Dan, do you want to tell everybody who you are, man?
Yeah, my name's Daniel. I play in a band called Birthmarks with my friends Jono and Jason. We've been going for about 3 years now. And that's kind of what I do, really, to be honest. I play guitar and sing and write stuff and play a bit of synths, boss people around.
I can't imagine that, man. You're like the nicest, most unassuming person. I can't imagine you being like, Jono, play that synth part better. What are you doing, man?
I think it's all in the eyes. I just give him the eyes, and he knows when he's upset me.
Are you kidding? Have you got like a Resna look? Do you like give him like a full on like intense like eye?
The threat of physical violence, I think, is what kind of keeps him in check.
Wow, I'm learning new things about you, man. Like I've only ever hugged you and had like lovely interactions with you, but remind me never to. I don't want to start a band with you now. Be like, Dom, you're getting it wrong, Dom. What are you doing?
No, it's something because obviously we didn't play together for so long, like properly.
Right.
But rehearsing again, we didn't have that long to rehearse for the first gig, so we did actually have to kind of figure out a new way of communicating. And like instead of being nice about it, or we have to be very, very direct with each other, which has been really working actually. Like it's. We were always direct with each other, but there was just no sugarcoating anything this time. So it's like, right, we've got 3 hours to get like this hour-long set together, so we need to be like bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
Which was cool. Like, it worked. But I think we all came out of the rehearsal room like a bit frazzled and thinking we don't like each other anymore. But we're good now, though.
It's good to know, man. Good to know.
It's interesting. I mean, it's sort of something I wanted to ask you about as someone who's got a gig coming up. And I think we were saying before, your first gig's Friday, right? Post-COVID.
It's like we had our first one 2 weeks ago in London.
You've just had one. Sick.
Yeah.
So that process of getting ready for something that you haven't done in that amount of time and maintaining a connection with the people that you play with. Interestingly, I know Dom knows you a lot better than I do. I know your music. I don't know you, and I don't know the other band members. And so I don't know whether necessarily you all know each other and spend time together outside of the band, or whether you come together to work, But how have you maintained those relationships over COVID so that you've got something when you come back in to doing stuff where you're clearly able to just get back out there and make stuff, It's pretty amazing. I know so many people who've not.
Yeah, I think we were quite fortunate actually, because like when it all kicked off, John ended up living here. Jason was living at his place, and so I would come in when we were allowed to. I come in right here and spend time with Jono, and then he just moved around the corner, so we will still see each other a lot. And me and Jason, we're all really close, to be honest. We don't actually hit each other for fun, but how did we do this? So we were quite lucky where we were invited to do an acoustic gig back first, so it meant that we had to strip everything right down and just go back to like the basic song structures and stuff, which was quite a nice way of doing it, to be honest, because it was low pressure. There wasn't any like crutch of technology that we usually have, and so we had that as a foundation to start rebuilding the live gigs up, which was just quite a cool way of doing it, really, because it was just felt a bit more organic, like just going back to what's the actual song structure, what does it need, like what doesn't need to be there anymore, and then like taking that back into like a full band live environment. Although all the stuff's so kind of already written, it was like another way of looking at it and just being like what's absolutely essential for it to be it, like what's crap and what's the mess in the way. So we could just kind of like strip it back. And we took that going forward again, and it's just been pretty cool, really. And I've just been writing shitloads, so I've been trying to get our next album done. I'm about 10 tracks in now, and we've got quite a cool system where, because Jono just lives on the corner, like I say, so he'll come around and work with me. Jason's got this whole setup at home, so we can send him like the rough stuff without the drums on it, and then he'll send it back with his beats, and we can kind of like work back and forth. And it's just a cool process that we've got going at the moment. So it's just exciting. It's nice. I think if we were a typical band where we needed to all be in the room together to make music, we would be struggling. But because we're quite studio based at the moment, it works really well.
I think people have been saying, that working remotely to an extent with bands is the future, probably since the drum machine was, a thing. And, Dom as a drummer, I'm sure for you, I don't know, when we work together, I work in quite a similar way to the way we've just described. Send stuff to you send stuff back, and you don't often think of it as a luxury, because it can be annoying sometimes to have to do it like that, because for us living in different cities, it's just kind of how we have to work a lot of the time. But it's interesting to hear you say that, because when I think about bands that I know and the bands that haven't got anything booked in yet, I'm sure there's lots, and haven't been able to get together and work on new material and things. It is fascinating how that culture of working remotely has bled out, and sort of actually it has utility in music as well, certainly even in sort of the stuff that we all play, which is not necessarily I've seen your gigs live, it's not heavily digital, there's a lot of digital stuff in there, but I'd say it's got all the components that a normal rock and roll act of any sort for the last sort of 50 odd years would have, plus digital stuff. It's amazing to hear that you're still making stuff, and there's 10 tracks in as well, right? Like into a new album. There's a lot of work you've done over the lockdown period, right?
It was just really nice to be able to have the time and space to write, and there's wasn't any kind of outside pressures to do anything. So I just got into a really good routine with it, and actually studying the craft of songwriting, and I've just got into a bit of a role with it, to be honest. So probably done about 40-50 songs, and then whittled them down, taken out the shit ones, and then Frankensteined a few of them together to try and find something that works. I'm really excited about it. I think it's I know a lot of people say that, but I think it's better than the last album. I'm really, really excited to get on with it, and looking to hopefully record it towards the end of the year. And yeah, I can't wait to start playing those live. That's the weird thing, because obviously we released our first album last March and then had the massive break. So we're all kind of done with those songs now. We just want to move on to the next stuff, to be honest. But it's cool. It's all exciting.
What are you feeling in terms of the future of playing live? Do you think there's been any change for you folks? Are you going to go back into the live environment and go back to sort of replicating the format and the playing styles and setups that you were using before? I mean, I'm sure it's determined partly by the new material, although I guess the material get reworked for stage and things usually happen like that. But have you come out of, similar to your rehearsal process, come out of lockdown and gone, oh shit, there's other ways of doing this? Or what are you feeling about it? I guess, do you know yet?
I don't know. I really love playing live. It's probably my favorite thing to do. But I think at the moment there's a sense of responsibility with it, where we're doing a couple of gigs, but I wouldn't want to do a tour. I just don't feel like it's necessarily that safe to do that. I don't think it's that responsible. But I don't know. I think I've got my own paranoias about it at the moment for whatever reason. But I really wish everything was better and we could just play live, but it's not really the case at the moment. And so we're going to do this Nottingham gig and then maybe take a little bit more time out from it and just, focus on, like I said, the new record instead of, booking stuff in, getting it postponed, cancelled, whatever. Putting 200 people into a room is stressful at the moment.
Yeah. How have you found, as a writer, because I don't know personally, and a lot of the stuff that I write about is relatively well connected, not just as a musician, but in other things that I do, is relatively well connected to the sort of the apocalyptic sort of tone that we've just gone through, and all this kind of occult conspiracy stuff, conspiracy theory stuff that is going on, that propels people's perspectives on vaccines and all this kind of shit. So a lot of my stuff fits very neatly into the bag of crap that we've been issued over the last couple of years. So it's fuel for it, but it's also familiar. Listening to your work, there's a range of emotional sort of engagement in there that deals with, some stuff that feels personal, some stuff that feels less personal and more broad, that's kind of, easy to empathize with, though. And I just wonder, as a writer, how do you feel like this period has affected you, other than in terms of the structure and the craft of songwriting? What are you bringing into it now? Are you is there stuff that you hadn't had chance to work on that you've had a period where you've had chance to work on, or is this all is there a lot of new inspiration in there, or how are you feeling about the songs?
Yeah, I guess it's impossible to not be affected by the last, 17, 18 months, because it's been so fucking weird. I don't want to write a song being like Freedom Day or COVID no or whatever like that. But I think it's impossible not to be influenced by it. Again, I'd say like with the time and space, you get more time to kind of reflect on stuff, and for better or for worse, maybe dwelling on shit, but you just get to process stuff in a different way when you're not doing anything for 24 hours a day, when you don't have the distractions of other people or work or whatever. So I don't know. I mean, it's going to be a very, very personal record, I think. But it's hard to tell at the moment. I'm still trying to finish off the lyrics for a lot of it. They always seem to come last. So I think there's that weird universal grief that we're all feeling, and we've all gone through something. So I feel a lot closer to a lot of people in a weird way. So I'd imagine I'd like the music to kind of feel like that as well, but like a universal healing, but that sounds really corny when you say it out loud. So.
I think it taps into something that music does, though, especially when you are talking about playing live, and you can get together, responsibly, but not that rock and roll has ever been massively responsible in terms of its relationship with the crowd. But, but when you can get a crowd together physically in a space and to engage with a piece of art, or in the form of a gig, or multiple pieces of art strung together or whatever in tracks, that there is a healing in it, right? Like there's something, I don't know exactly. I think obviously the psychological stuff, whether there's resonant stuff that I'm not professionally qualified to talk about with any knowledge whatsoever, and Dom actually probably has a hell of a lot more experience in his neck of the woods in terms of the counselling side of things, that in terms of how these things actually affect people. But you feel it when you're at a gig, you feel that camaraderie and things. It's going to be really interesting to, I'm not able to come and see you actually at your, I know Dom's coming, but it's going to be so interesting to see what the vibe is like and how people respond to music live as well. Speaking as someone who, as we were saying before, hasn't been to a gig in 2 years probably, and it's going to be weird, man.
Yeah, well, our first one back was just really overwhelming for me in particular, and for the other guys. It was just emotional as fuck, but again, it was a lot of people that had come their first gig back into the real world, and I think speaking to people afterwards, they kind of felt the same way, where it was just so surreal, and also no time had passed at all at the same time, so it was this weird conflicting kind of emotion going on. But yeah, it's I think it's a very important thing in life, especially if you're into music, to kind of be able to go to your kind of church and shit, to be with your people and experience that kind of catharsis together. It's really, really important, and doing it now, it's just beautiful but overwhelming at the same time, really, I would say.
Yeah.
Does it give you, as a performer, do you find that when you're on stage, if there's a tone like that, something that's specific to the venue or specific to the point in time and life socially, outside of just you and the band, but that the audience and everyone is going through some crisis or whatever that you happen to be playing in the middle of, or after, as we're talking about now, do you find that affects your performance, or do you have a really rigid way of approaching performance, and you sort of know how you're gonna be on stage, and it's sort of tailored? How flexible are you with your response if you're feeling all these things when you perform?
Yeah, I think every time we play a gig, my personal mantra is to give 110%, as I'm sure the majority of musicians are, but it is completely controlled by the room. Like if you're screaming and there's just that old dude at the back just at the end of it not really into it, or people on their phones or whatever, you don't get the same call and response that you need with the audience, where if it's like a really up for it crowd, it's the best experience in the world. But I'll always go into it with the same kind of mindset of like, this is the last gig ever, this is what we're going to do, this is the moment, and give it your all. But there is that magic of that call and response that I think is really, really vital. But it's I think it's the band's job to create that as well. which I've learned as well. Like I remember when I first started playing live, it was, I guess, that arrogance of being like, no, they'll be into it, I'm sure, but I think you need to provide that space for them.
Yeah. I've always had like a really, really emotional response to a lot of your stuff. I can't remember. Obviously, like I get press releases every day, and I mean, you know how the industry works, man. Like I get releases all the time and things. And I remember, I can't think it was an email. I think you sent me an email back when you were Little Death Machine, and I just listened to it, and obviously it struck a chord with me because of my influences and things I'm into. But like you weren't like every other band trying to rip off Nine Inch Nails or every other band trying to do electronic rock in a certain way. There was a real emotion, like you could hear it in your voice. And I remember listening to Midnight Blue and Charcoal, which are songs that have made it into Birthmarks, but were also part of Little Death Machine. And I remember having a really strong emotional response. I was sat in my flat in Manchester at the time, and I think you were due to play a gig in Manchester, and that was my first ever introduction with you. I still can't remember how it was. I'm pretty sure it was an email, but like I was like, this is good. Like a lot of times I'll have emails and I'll be like, all right, yeah, cool, or you know, and I'll kind of pass it on to somebody or whatever. But like I got a real emotional response because you can hear it in your voice. It's very. I remember Jason from All Us in Love compared you to Placebo and your vocal, and I quite like that because. Even though some people, I mean, obviously a lot of people, millions of people love Placebo, but the vocal, you can hear the emotion in it. And I always liked your vocal and how strained and sort of, you can hear that you've had a really shit time when you wrote those songs. And when you're on stage, and you've played shows for me that have been well attended, some less well attended, but you always give 110. I remember you'd been attacked the night before in London for one of the Fulford Arms shows, one of the Things shows we did with you. And you'd been attacked the night before and you came to play a show. And like, I always admired, like you, like I've seen a lot of bands, I've booked a lot of bands, you know, and I think that's the testament, what I'm trying to say, going back to Kieran's question. I showed you to Mark Sinfield from Bud Heron, you know, the guy that we talked about earlier, Kiran, our mutual friend, mine and Daniel's from Hull. And I showed Birthmarks to Daniel, to Mark with confidence because I know that, you know, he's going to get it. Do you know what I mean? Because like, I know like Birthmarks always leave at 110%. So it's like you say that you leave 110%, but I can testify, not just because you're a friend of mine, that you actually do that because you could see it. And like I respond to that when I'm in the crowd. I'm pretty sure I've probably shed a tear to one of your sets. I think it may have been the Dive show because it was so packed. And it was, people were really vibing off it and they'd never seen you before. Obviously you'd come to I think it was your second time in Hull. And I really got something from that. So going back to Kieran's question, sorry to dominate here, talking about emotional connection with music, like I know you believe in it and I know that you love it, and also like I have an emotional connection with you because I see you as like extended family. Do you know what I mean? Even though we're geographically separate, like got a lot of love for you, and so there is that connection there. And what I'm trying to say is that everything Kieran's saying, when you have a connection with music, like you can say that you really believe in it. You can say you give 110%. You can say, oh, this record's really personal to me and whatever. But like with Birthmarks, more than with any other band I can think of right now that I've seen live or I've met or I've encountered, like you can feel it. In the music, like you could feel it when you go on stage that you really, really give a fuck, and it really, really hurt to write that song, and it really, really hurts to sing it sometimes, and and I was like, that is, you can't replicate that, you can't teach that, you can't pay for that. I know, like, one of the things I'll ask you, obviously I'll let Kiran take over again, is your attitude to success, which is my music industry question, so I apologize. But because you understand with, your family, some of those work in the music industry, and you've got an experience of working in the music industry, and so your attitude to success is going to be different. But no matter what, man, if I had a body of work, like, and then the rain stopped, if I'd written that and never did anything else with my time, I would be immensely proud. Like, immensely proud. If I confidently show that stuff to people and go, this King band, whether you're into it or not, whether you're into industrial music or whether you're into electronic rock or you're into Nine Inch Nails or you're into Placebo, I can confidently go, right, this King band will connect with you in some way. Do you know what I mean? Because you don't just, it's not just industrial beats and fucking synths. Some that you can hear it, man. And I'm going to stop my little Birthmarks orgy thing that I'm doing right now. I'm not sitting here with my dick in my hand. I'm just saying it because I think it needs to be said. Like that stuff connects with people, and I know it's connected with other people as well. I wouldn't be sitting here saying it just like, oh, Birthmarks are the best band in the fuck world. I know people from Hull that I remember that you played the show at O'Reilly's and there was like nobody there, but because it was King O'Reilly's. As much as I love Darren and the people there, that's a weird venue to play. But yeah, like there was 5 people with me stood watching you, and one of those people came back to the dive show, and they are now a fan, and they booked a ticket to see you at what did we call it, Ultra Festival, because they were so excited to see you. And I was like, you can't buy that, and you have like 1,000+ streams or whatever on Spotify, and the best PR. I know you have the best PR company going behind you, but like, you can't buy that shit. And that like so I look at you and I'm like, that's cool as fuck. I think that's cool as fuck when you've written something that you can go to a different city and just blow somebody's balls off that aren't mine, because you already blew mine off. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that's a beautiful thing. So talking about that was I went off on one, but the connection between music and people, and connecting on stage with stuff. I think that you are one of the only bands I can think of right now, because you can look at other great examples of sort of showmanship like Bone Cult or whatever, but like really feeling it. Like you could see it in your eyes, in the voice, and the face, your facial structure when you're singing. You can feel it, man, and I love that. And I'm going to shut up now.
I feel really, really embarrassed. Thank you very much. That's very flattering.
It wasn't meant to, but I apologize for embarrassing you, man. I
don't be silly.
I think that it's important, talking about emotional connection to music. Anyway.
No, that's really lovely of you. Thank you very, very much.
I think even as just as someone that met you before I'd heard you play. Before I'd heard you recorded, I heard you play live, and before I heard you play live, I think I was stressing about one thing or another, because I think we were on this. I can't remember if we were on before you or after you or whatever, but it was with the thing. And you and Bone Cult played. I think that both of you played that gig. And I tell you what, I didn't realize you guys were playing together until recently. I didn't realize you played another set together or gig together or whatever soon. But I wish I'd known so I could book it, because. For much the same reason, I'd like to see it as purely an audience member, but even as a fellow person in another band that's on the set, I tell you what, the vibe is really strong. I think it's not just with the audience. You did create because it was a venue that we've played multiple times with other bands as well. You guys collectively create a real atmosphere, and it's nice to be another band playing in that atmosphere too. Partly from a parasitic reason that you can feed off it, and partly because you can feed into it as well, and people are already hyped up, so it becomes like a Rolling Stone, right? Like so, So really, like, I think I'd agree with all of that, man. I'm a bit gutted that I can't come see you. I didn't realize you were playing. I'm busy. It kind of sucks. And then Dom brought up doing this interview when we're doing it, so I had to look at what was going on for you. I was like, oh shit, they're playing a gig. It's going to be really nice to do it with those guys again. Like, we haven't seen them in 2 years, and we played an awful lot with them as well.
Yeah,
and they always bring it. That's going to be really cool. I'm really excited. Apparently, they've got a new set and stuff. So
yeah. I saw they got a drummer or something as well. I was like, what? They finally got a drummer.
Ripping us off, man.
crazy. Now, we did an interview with Bone Cult ages ago. I think same night we did that interview with you as Little Death Machine, and I always felt really bad because it was a good interview, but because obviously they're so mindful, and that's an interesting question, visual. Because me and Kiran have talked about the visual aspect of what we do, and I know Birthmarks also have a keen eye and a keen interest to obviously the artwork for, and then the rain stopped is a good point for that. But Bone Cult are very particular about how they're presented, and so we couldn't publish the interview we did with them because they were which is, they've got a very, very strong brand. And I think that's my next question before I kind of leave the floor fully to Kiran. Is I wanted to talk to you about perception and things like that, because obviously your artwork is great. I remember seeing the artwork before the album. The visual side is great, and I wanted to ask you about how much importance you place on perception as somebody that from behind the scenes knows how important it is. You've got your partner works in the industry, you worked in the industry, you've seen things from that side. How important is perception to you and to Birthmarks as a machine, as a band?
Perception, I guess. Like, we're we're careful with obviously the imagery that we use for stuff. But I kind of feel like perception is slightly out of our control. Like, I feel like if we pick the artwork and stuff that we think suits the record, then it's purely for that. It's purely to suit the record. It's not because, that would look good on a t-shirt, because annoyingly our album cover looks shit on a t-shirt. I've tried, but so it's just trying to keep it as close and as what serves the music best, really. So there's no like behind the scenes plan, so to speak, on like social media or anything like that. It's just trying to make like a very genuine product that from a genuine band trying to sell the genuine product. There's not too much marketing or anything around that. And like, we're perceived how we're perceived. Like, I don't think we're the coolest band in the world, but I don't think we're the corniest either. It's really out of our control. Like, I think if you're into it, that's amazing. That's what we love. But if you're not, you're not. I'm not going to try and trick you into liking it because it's cool. Like, I think it's cool. I'm really glad that other people think it's cool, and that's all we're trying to do. So it's not, if we're perceived differently, then it's really out of our control, I would say.
Yeah. It's a hard line to walk, actually, that, isn't it, really? I suppose from a branding perspective, when it's your job and things, because you've got to sell your product and you've got to sell what you do if you want it to be self-sustaining in the climate that we're in. But by the same token, you don't want to. There's two reasons, I suppose. You don't want to be perceived as being perception focused and then seem shallow, and you also don't want to. You don't want to let perception take. Your attempts to control people's perception of your artwork to take precedence over the artwork itself, right? So it's good though if it feels like coming to your work and coming and listening to it online and having seen you live, and there's synergy there, but it doesn't feel like a front ever. If anything, it's you're guided to the music, because I do think aesthetically, I mean, we've all played with bands that are both aesthetic and really master their aesthetics, but also the music's great. But certainly there's plenty out there where it's the other way around, and I've struggled with that. Certainly, is like you've got a visual concept and you've got song concepts and things, but then sometimes if the visual leads, am I losing? Should I be working on the music? You sound so music focused, in the way that you talk about what you've done, sort of across every question and all the things we've talked about. It comes back to the band and the music that you're making. And I think you feel that in the music too. Like it's definitely to you guys' credit. You can hear it. So,
well, I guess like visually, like we do look at things. So like live, we always at the moment we're just all wearing grey, and we've got. The philosophy of the live gig is the number 3, so we'll have 3 stage lights, and we'll have 3 light bulbs and 3 members, and then like for our video, like just something really simple, so it's just there to support the music as opposed to like be the front of it. And like with our videos and stuff, it's always been, well, what would be cool, how much money have we got, and how could we do this in a cool way? So like the video for How Do You Rule Me, where it's just we just hired this amazing free runner called Bogdan. He was literally running around central London with a GoPro in his mouth, and then we edited that later. So it was just like, well, that seems like a cool idea. There's not, I mean, maybe in the future we could look at something tying the videos together more, but it was just, that seemed like a cool idea to us. We thought it looked cool. We had to get up very, very early. We pissed off a lot of security guards, which was a kind of it happens. But yeah, it was just like, well, what looks cool and does that support the music? Like, as you say, it's the music always kind of comes first for us, really. It's substance over style, I suppose, would be our philosophy on it.
Yeah. I'm gonna sort of ask Dom's question for him, the one that he sort of foreshadowed earlier, which is because I think it ties into the questions about substance, or the topic of substance over style. So for you, how do you rate your success, and what is success for you in regards to this project, you know, Birthmarks, and also any upcoming work in specific? Like, how do you gauge that?
Well, I don't know, really. Like, we don't sell out Brixton Academy, so we're not like that kind of success. But at the same time, again, the most successful moment I think we've had was when we finished mastering the album, and it was just like, cool, that took a very fucking long time to do. That is exactly how I wanted it to sound, and like there's not any compromise on the sound of it at all. So that was success. Every time that we get like a message from someone, that feels like success, and we've gotten very sweet, you know, messages from people before, where the music's helped them, and that's been really successful in my eyes. Every time we've played a gig that's gone well, and then we've met people afterwards, that's been like a success. I'm not into playing the pop game, really. I love pop music, but just the machine behind it, like, it's that cliche of just what a fucking mess. And like, especially now with like social media and plants and stuff like that, I don't think that's success. I think that's money, which I'm not a capitalist, so it's hard to judge, really. I mean, I just like being like in an art rock band and be able to, you know, make enough money to afford to do what we want to do, roughly, and like just trying to make cool shit. That's a success to me, and that's where I see Birthmarks at the moment, and it's really fun, and I love doing it. I feel emotionally validated by it, I suppose. But if someone wants to give us shitloads of money, that's cool as well. Like,
well, hey, you know, it means you can do bigger things, but yeah, it's good though. I mean, it's nice to hear, and I think a lot of bands probably feel exactly the same way. A lot of artists feel the same way. You've got to have it's almost, you know, that honestly, that success question is always a veiled question about cash a lot of the time, because of the nature of the industry, and the fact that it is an industry, and that you have to work with that, even if you don't like it. We don't have to work with it. You can play completely outside the industry if you want. It's just who you end up playing to, you know, and how, as you say, you get messages from people that your work has helped, and you want those sorts of people to be able to be engaged with the work, and so you have to get it out there, and we all know how it works. And yeah, it's great to retain that relationship with it though, even when you are playing big gigs and, you know, going out and booking things. It sounds, you know, eminently sensible, you know. And I, you know, so for you, it sounds like it's like cooking or something, you know, where the joy is in like the making it, and then you get a little bit of the thing when you re-engage with it later when you eat it or whatever. And it's sort of like that with music. That's what I'm getting from you talking about it like that. But what about you? Yeah, specific to the new record, what do you want out of it? What's driving it, and what are you what do you want the record to do? You know, for you, what's the motivation? What's the fuel behind it?
What do I want it to do? I just want it to resonate with people. I feel like I've improved a lot as a writer in the last year. I feel like, again, having time to study production and stuff, there's a lot more kind of cooler sounds and shit. We bought some new equipment, that's all on there. I would like it to just reach people, really. I mean, that's the hardest part with music, isn't it? Is actually finding the people who would appreciate it. So again, just trying different avenues. Like, I mean, touring at the moment isn't on the card, so it's like, well, how else can we do it? I'm kind of losing myself now. What do I want out of the record? I just to get to the people that would appreciate it, I suppose. I'd like to play more. I know it's hard with Brexit and COVID now, but I'd like to do some stuff in Europe, because it's like the last record's done well in Europe. So, but it's just not quite done well enough to justify breaking COVID rules. And Brexit and shit. I just want it to reach people, man. Like, just if people are interested in it and want to get into it, that's all I want, really.
That's cool. That's everyone's got different motivations behind their writing and things, obviously, and it's nice to hear that from a maker, while making, because don't get me wrong, I'm sure plenty of people are like that once they've got the thing done and before they've done the thing, and then there's plenty of people who are doing it just for catharsis or whatever, and if it goes anywhere, it goes anywhere. It's really nice to hear, and it sort of goes back to sort of the same thing that Don was talking about earlier, like, and I think that must be what it is. I say must, I don't know, but that's what I'm feeling like. You guys connect, that's what we were talking about before. You connect, and we're talking in terms of perception, you connect, and I'm talking about having played alongside you, like you've built an environment by being there where the audience are engaged. And then you're saying about resonance again in regards to the record. Maybe that's like your secret. If there's a secret ingredient, maybe it's about resonance or something, like like the unspoken thing. I'm always trying to get to the bottom of what it is with people that makes them I nearly said successful, but what is that? What I'm trying to say is what makes them people that I want to go and listen to, or that people I know want to go and listen to or engage with. And I don't know, maybe yours is the resonance or something, because there's something about it. Obviously, it's hard for me because, much like Dom, the music you play is in a style and a genre that I enjoy anyway, so I'm going to naturally gravitate towards it. But I know people that have been at gigs that didn't necessarily come to see you guys and went away and then listened to your music, and it's like, what is it? What's the connection? It's and I'm guessing it's the strength of your conviction in how much you want to communicate, or something like that.
Trying to figure out why they hate it so much.
No. If they want to do that, they'll go listen to the thing. It's hard, isn't it? Obviously, you both know, like, as artists, it's I think if you're making the work, your perception on it is so different to anyone else's, and you hear it completely differently, or you see it completely differently. So it's really, really hard to know with like the audience what that secret ingredient is. But I'll take your word for it, I suppose. Hey. I think that maybe that's my perspective on it, and only my perspective, but I do think that compared to a lot of bands, there's the connection is up front, clearly, in terms of that's obviously what people I know have got out of it. It's really interesting. I wanted to ask you, it's going sort of divergence from the success kind of question, the perception sort of questions, but also around you talking about wanting to tour, but now being a difficult time, especially around access to Europe and COVID regulations making travel in general difficult. What's the right way of putting this? You guys are young, right? You're like, you as in like the people in the band, you're going to be around for a while, right? Like you guys are going to be playing together, I assume, for a good many years coming forwards.
I turned and threw my back out last week, so I don't know how young.
Hey, I know how that feels. But let's say you're around, for the next 25, 30 years playing as Birthmarks, as group of people. What do you have any, like, maybe you don't, but I know I think about this shit all the time and it bothers me or it makes me feel inspired or whatever, but where do you see the music world going? Are there any like major changes in terms of distribution and access and stuff like that you feel like you want to tap into, or that bother you, or that keep you up, or in terms of like the way you're going to fit into the future of music? What do you get feelings about that and from it, or is it something you try and pack away and go, you know what, let's focus on the work and that's going to happen whatever happens?
That's really interesting. I feel like the playing field needs to be leveled a bit more, because as it stands, obviously, anyone can release a song and get it onto Spotify. You can't necessarily release a song and get it into the Spotify playlists, because 80% of those are major label artists, because they own big shares in like those streaming services. So that's fucked, because they're seen as independent artists. However, the people backing them are paying for them to be there. So there's this weird thing, and also no one's getting paid out of that. Just that it's just the labels kind of regurgitating the money. So I feel like, as incredible as it is to have, I love having Spotify. I love having access to millions of songs every second of the day. I can listen to, I can listen to Napalm Death earlier. I don't know any Napalm Death records. but that was fun. And then was listening to Laura Marling after that and stuff. I loved that for it. But it feels like I would love for there to be a more honest and like less industry-based mainstream platform for it. I just don't think that's going to happen. I could see it probably getting more corrupt in that way. But I feel like the underground scenes always do well when that shit happens. Like, as a response to that, you have to work harder, and like, or people see through the disingenuous Spotify shit. Like, you know, a band like Idols were touring obviously for years before they had any success, and now the success is completely built off that kind of DIY ethos. And there's hundreds of stories like that. So you just hope that if it doesn't become more like level, that the underground just gets stronger, and that's all you can hope for, really. And underground music's so much better anyway.
I like that. That's it. Yeah, it's interesting to hear that sort of perspective. I've been trying to work out if there is a platform or something that is, and it's a conversation we've had in a couple of these interviews as well with different people. You know, if there's something that's better.
Bandcamp is the closest.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and then if there's a model of distribution that doesn't rely on systems of exchange in the conventional sense, but then how do you make a living off it in a system where you have to in order to sustain it, and all these sorts of questions. So I'm always thinking about it, and I'm not like, that's not my area of scholarship outside of this or anything. It's just something I find like interesting. And as a musician, it's not something that, I don't know, I think it bothers me as a human being rather than as a musician. I'm not set up being like, how can we get more listens on Spotify, or how can we like plug ourselves on a platform that's ethical and isn't Spotify. I'm not sat there thinking that. I'm just thinking like, what's the future look like a lot of the time?
Yeah, I mean, I feel sorry for artists that are like more successful than us in a way, because there's that weird middle ground. Say if, I don't know, I'm band X, I'm not going to give a band name, but if you're like able to tour Europe, you haven't got a major label backing you, and you're getting, say, like $1,000 a month from streams, and then all that money's going to touring, and now you're getting new fees brought in for touring, new cuts on merchandise and stuff like that. I don't know how you're going to be able to sustain that. Like, it's kind of better to be like under the radar like we are, to be in, as opposed to being that weird middle ground where there's so much money going out constantly, and just so many people taking percentages of it, like earning it. Don't get me wrong, not Spotify for example, but like, it's these new fees and shit. That's terrifying for live music. I don't know how that's sustainable for these mid-level artists. Maybe they'll go like smaller undergrounder.
I think it's interesting coming from like a, you know, obviously like my background was in, even though my tastes are much more, you know, sort of you know, art rock, whatever, alternative rock, electronic rock, my sort of the just because of my style of playing, I've obviously been in hardcore punk bands, and that culture like is, you sleep on floors and it's not a problem, and you get a, you know, you do whatever you can just to get to the next show, you know. You know, I've played squats in Holland and stuff, and it was wonderful experiences. And I'm not just saying that to sit and be like, oh yeah, cool, this is what I've done. But it's interesting what you say. Maybe it is better to like have those experiences and not be a multimillionaire. Like, those experiences will last me a lifetime, and I'll be able to say I've done that. And I never thought I could do that. And I'm sure, Daniel, you've got experiences where you know, have done things that you never thought possible because you made it happen. Whether it was because you booked a show, or that show you just played looked fantastic, you know, and I know you put that together or helped put that together. Do you know what I mean? So like, you can create your own moments and you can create your own legacy, and there's nobody else telling you how to do it. Do you know what I mean? I quite like that. So sometimes I get wrapped up in the success thing, you know, I get wrapped up in that quite a lot. But actually, you're making your own moments. Kieran, there's another example. You've played the Bridlington Spa, which, you know, the Prodigy have sold out and stuff like that, and you've done that with your art project. Other examples, loads of other examples. But like, maybe it's better to be the way we are, and on our level, I know Birthmarks is certainly higher up on level in terms of commercial success to what we do. But yeah, like maybe it's better to be able to create moments yourself, create lifelong memories yourself, rather than relying on somebody else to tell you whether it's good or whether it's successful. Have I just gone off massively off topic there?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'd say, like, I don't know about you guys and the things you've played. I know, Dom, you've played a lot of festivals. Daniel, I don't know if you've played much in the way of festivals as opposed to, but I know you've played plenty of gigs where there's like multiple band gigs, where it'd be hard to say who the headline is because there's a lot of fans from each band turn up and, they've come to see a band and other bands that know them. I wonder sometimes about like community sustainability. And I know, obviously, Dom, you've been plugged into this sort of stuff in terms of venue management or venue owning for a long time. But maybe that's where it's at, and maybe that's where that meeting point of you get enough people in the house that you achieve something other than just playing to an empty room. But it's not necessarily about playing to those people because you want to make money, but there's enough money to self-sustain, and for that you need a venue. I wonder if it's this getting multiple people together and multiple bands together and multiple audiences together in circulation and getting them to see each other is almost the saving grace of how you recover from the unsustainability of touring. Because for me personally, I fucking love playing festivals, whether it's with theatre or music, because there's so much going on and there's opportunities to be both audience and performer, and then by contrast, tours are so exhausting, especially if you're doing the sort of thing where you just go on stage and then you come off stage and you don't speak to anyone and you don't see any other acts. I don't know, that does feel a little bit hollow. And sometimes you're on tour because you're chasing cash or success, and often just to be on tour, you're trying to sustain the cash flow in order to pay for the tour, and so you're so busy and you're doing it every night. So I think festivals might be I don't know, maybe I've come back around to where I was at when I was a teenager. And I'm like, festivals, everything should be festivals. I don't know, man. There's something about that getting people together, though, as opposed to it all being the weight of needing to succeed, all being on one band, and then that driving the band purely commercially. Maybe that's the future, like, that we can somehow capitalize on. I hope. I don't know. More festivals. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I could see that, man. Like, festivals are brilliant. When they're good as well. Anyway, it's not like Fire Festival or anything like that. Or
the worst of both worlds.
Yeah.
I mean, I do love a good festival, but I hate camping. I've had to do it so many times. I just don't like camping. I just get stuck in the mud. Like, I get my stick stuck in the mud. It's a disaster, but it makes for some entertaining times, to be fair. I've been stuck in the mud so many times at Leeds Festival. So again, memories. It's about memories rather than chasing financial clout. But I've learned a lot through the course of this interview, actually. I'm changing my perspective on a couple of things. There's a quote you said earlier, Daniel, about, so again, having moments and cool moments and doing cool shit. And I like that. I'm like, do you define success about whether you do cool shit or whether you're making loads of money? And I think all three of us, if you look at it in terms of cool shit, which I never normally do, it's like, yes, we're very successful. Like, I'm sat here and I'm like the happiest in this moment. I'm the happiest I've been in a long time because I'm like, yeah, you know what, man, I've done some pretty cool shit. So, like, if I look at it like that, then that's fucking cool. But if I go away and I go, oh, am I making $1 million? Am I making millions of pounds, or am I, do we just have have we had loads of successful advertorials on Soundsphere this month? Some of them are, some of them aren't. But like, if I stop looking at it like that, if I strip back all the layers and go, actually, have I done cool shit? I feel quite at peace, actually, because I always wanted to make electronic music. So I did that with Kiran. So I found the right person with the best jawline in the world to front the band and do all the work and write all the beautiful music, and I could just ride along his coattails. So there you go. So I ticked that off with Kiran. Thank you, Kiran. You're responsible for one of my dreams. I've been able to book bands that I believe in and I adore, like Birthmarks. So that's fucking cool, because I feel like I've brought you to some people that you wouldn't have maybe been brought to, which is a lovely thing.
We're really grateful for.
Man, it's all good. It's a pleasure. But that's the thing. The reason why I'm not just saying this so I'm not sitting here again, stroking anything. What I'm trying to say is like, I haven't thought about that in a long time. I haven't gone, actually, well, Dan's talking about doing cool shit, and like that's good enough for Dan. And like you've got a beautiful life, man, from what I know of you and social media and stuff as well. But like, you know, you've done really well. You've done some amazing things with your life, and you've written music that is, again, you know, it's not just heard in London, it's heard all over the place, you know, and in Europe as well. And I hope you get to do that European tour one day. And, you know, that's what I mean, like Kiran as well. Like, sometimes I want to sit with you and just be like, you know, how do you define success? But then if you look at like what you've done theatrically, you know, and also like, the like some of your ideas and stuff, man, like that doesn't just come from, you know, nothing. You've made that happen, like whether it's songs we've done or like, because we never, you know, talking about the machine and PR and all that stuff, that's fine, but like there has to be the song there first, and then also, you know, the theatre stuff and connecting with people in that way. I've got so much respect for the both of you for the things that you do, and I just wanted to kind of say that because like I very rarely get moments like this where my brain switches off and I go, I think that's the ADHD. But like my brain switches off and goes, actually, yeah, things are all right. Things are okay. Like my brain, like during the course of this interview, my brain's got really calm and I'm quite enjoying it. Like it never normally happens because normally I'm the one. I think it's because I'm not asking all the questions. It's fucking great. Kieran, can you do interviews with me all the time? Because it just allows me to quite quieten my brain. So I appreciate that, man.
It's nice to listen there, and then thank you as well, by the way. But also, I think that's been something I've found as well, having these conversations with musicians and producers and artists like yourself, Dan. You know, like it's nice to not have everybody answering with really like it's funny because we're about to ask you to plug whatever it is that you want to plug, but it's nice to not have loads of industry based questions that are about the artist, but sometimes have the artists and the producers and industry people reflect on the broader picture in which they exist rather than just their work, because I think you learn a lot about work by engaging with it. You know, you can go and listen to albums and stuff. I don't know about you guys. What about you, Daniel? When you want to learn about an album, do you go and read what the artist says about it usually?
Yeah, I try to. Yeah.
Do you do that before or after listening?
Usually afterwards. So like if it's my kind of like fantasy, then I'll try and read into it as much as possible. Or like there's some really cool podcasts now about albums, which I've been enjoying a lot. Like Tape Notes is a really thorough one. I can't remember the name of another one, but there's this really cool one where it's like each episode is an hour long and it's the track, it goes in like track order of the album. So they did like Because the Internet by Childish Gambino, and that album is so fucking dense in detail and like beautiful, where it completely like justifies having like an hour long conversation about every song. And I learned so much from that. It was amazing.
I love deep dives like that, but I'm the same. I go and I check out content about work, broadly work, music, whatever, usually after having engaged with the music, unless it's just the point at which I find the music. That's a bit different. You know, you get an article and it's like 10 bands you didn't know about that were doing electronic music in the north of England. Like that's more like, oh shit, these are shit, I could go see these guys, let's go listen to them. There's that, and then there's, oh man, I listened to that album, now I'm going to go look at what a critic said and see if I agree with them. Now I'm going to go look at what an artist said about where it came from. And it's nice to, in these interviews, it's really nice to be getting conversations that are like, I hope that people come to this and check this out after listening to you, you know, as well, rather than just being about, here, we've got this dude that we know, his music's sick, you should go check it out, you know, because we want that as well. But I hope that this is, people come and learn about you and some of the stuff around the music and what your perspectives and thoughts are from coming to it. That's definitely, I don't know, that's how I engage with interviews and things like that usually. It's just so nice to hear you talking about things like what you know, like little things like the complications of getting into Europe these days and where that could be. I think, you know, that will help to understand what the future of your music looks like, maybe looking back as well, man. Like after you've been to Europe and done a tour in Europe, it'd be interesting to come back and revisit.
Well, it's weird because like I used to work in live music, and speaking to some of my old colleagues now, like no one knows how they're going to do it. Like even the big companies, I was talking to the head of all of the companies the other day, and like he's like, well, we could put you on this European tour, but we don't know if it's possible yet. Like it's such like uncharted waters at the moment. I also feel like I've been super negative with the industry. Like there's so many amazing people that work in it. really, really hard workers, and like they're amazing. It's just the machine is fucked. But there's a big away from how amazing those people are.
I think a lot of it is the people believe the people are the best people, but then it's the machine that beats them down. Over the years, there's a lot of great people in the industry trying to do great things, but the way that they have to do them is quite draining sometimes. You know what I mean? The machine and the rules in place for how things are done. So people come in with the best intentions and they big hearts and great visions, and you and I know some of those people collectively, Dan and Kiran as well. But like, I think sometimes you can get a bit beaten down by it, and maybe it's more conversations like this, on a scale.
I think and it's not just music. We're not alone in that, man. There's nice bankers and there's nice cops and there's nice soldiers and all that stuff, and then there's systems that make people be shitty. And entertainment is entertainment's one of the worst forums. People get run down by systems, but also there's, you hear about.
I'd maybe argue that there aren't any good policemen personally, but
I think it's one of those things where, like, people, all these sorts of things, people do come in with good intentions, and then systems complicate it, right? But you need systems, but they're complicating. It's a shame. It's a shame. It is really a shame in the entertainment industry that it's never actually had a good basis. I don't think, it's intensely exploitative as an industry, and its history is so exploitative by nature of making people get on a stage and dance for other people, But I hope that after a big shake-up like we've just had, that there are people like yourself and Dom and some of the people we've spoken to who are genuinely thoughtful about it, that are going to help to shape where it goes just by being in it.
I think there's like some really cool labels like doing that kind of stuff as well, and some really cool artists and who aren't playing the game, like Partisan Records seem to be doing, just everything they put out is really fucking cool, and it's not chasing anything, or I really respect them. Like, and it's going back to the kind of like one of my heroes in music is Ian Mackay, and like what he did with Discord, and just like anti-music industry is just cool as fuck, man. Like,
I like that. I like the anti-music industry. There's something in that. I've already switched on my industry head, but I'm like, yeah, that sounds cool, man. That's good. Yeah.
I think it's what you were saying about the underground before. Like, you need it. I mean, everything generates its own underground, right? Anything successful in a commercial sense generates an underground, and anything that is successful in a popularity, whether it's commercial or not, generates an underground that tries to be as unpopular as possible, and then gets into the dilemma of popularity, but addresses these questions. It's a dialectic thing, isn't it? Like, you need like you need things to problematize other things, and so whatever's dominant in society, whatever's happening, stuff problem comes out and emerges that problematizes it, and hopefully from that mix you get something good. And I am personally, I feel the same way as you. I'm leaning towards maybe trying to personally, anyways, as an audience member, re-engage with underground stuff, because I think after a big shake-up like we've just had the last couple of years, there's probably likely to be a whole new, I don't want to say caliber, it makes it sound like it's better or worse. I'm just saying there's going to be more. I think there's going to be new and weirder and more interesting stuff going on in the underground, just I would imagine, because there's such a drive after the sort of stuff we've gone through to get back out there, and for big bands to get back on tour, and for big labels to put out big albums, and certainly like in cinema, with cinemas reopening, getting films back out. So we're talking festivals, getting bands on. There must be so much stuff going on behind the scenes, and that at the same time, I feel like maybe that's the stuff I should be engaging with for many of the reasons that we've sort of touched on today, where before I was buying 60, 70 quid tickets to bands, 120, 150 quid tickets to bands that I like, that I've listened to for years and years. There's nothing wrong with that. But man, I need to come see more other stuff, hopefully.
I'm just excited because I feel like if you're lucky, it's been really productive creatively. So I feel like there's going to be so much cool shit coming out. Like, with people just in there, like, people that never made music before, but they've like, oh, cool, I've got GarageBand, I don't have to work, I'm going to try and do this. And like, there's going to be so much cool stuff coming out. Just from the time of it, I'm really excited to see the new stuff.
Yeah, man. Me too. Kiran, where are those beats, man? Come on. No,
man, it's a topic for maybe a longer conversation, because I think we've got to wrap up shortly. But I will just say, I mean, I don't know if you guys feel similarly or not. It's maybe something to talk about another time. But man, the next biggest shakeup, I think, is some sort of UBI. You know, giving people time and flexibility to work in the way that, say, like the furlough scheme did, but perhaps without some of the monumental societal pressure that also came with it. But there's so many people out there that need time to grow the things that they do, that don't have time to grow it. And I just think music and all forms of art would thrive. You know, I really do. So yeah, but man, it's plug time, because we're coming to the end. What's in the pipeline? We know you've got an album, but I know that's not at the point where you're at, like, I imagine that's not at a plugging point just yet, because you
still trying to plug it, man. The new one. The old one we're still trying to plug. So
oh man, plug it with all your heart, man, because we love it. So.
We've got an album called "And Then the Rain Stopped," which got some nice vinyls left of it, and yeah, it's available on all streaming services, even though I've just been slagging them off for an hour. It's still on there, and yeah, so it's called "And Then the Rain Stopped." We're doing a gig in Nottingham on Friday. I'm not sure when this is coming out, and then we'll be playing live again a lot more at some point soon, and hopefully the new album will be out at the start of next year ish.
Fantastic. Not actually that far away, actually, then, ready for the new album. You know?
I keep saying that. I think I'm just trying to give myself a deadline to finish it, to be honest.
Sick.
Before we go, I just want to ask you, this is a question I do like to ask now. For those people, obviously, you know, there are people that love you, there are people that love your music, that aren't me and aren't Kiran. People that know you, for those people that have supported you, for the people that have yet to discover you, and for the people that love that record, and then the rain stopped, and play it, you know, once a week, twice a week, a million times a week, whatever. What is your message for those people, the people that have supported you and will continue to do so as you continue on in your musical journey and otherwise?
Thank you, I guess, is like the only thing we can really say. Like, it just means the world to us whenever we get kind of messages, support, or you know, just chatting with people, and it's just nice to connect to people. I feel like it's a good starting point of connection, and it's not about us at that point. It's about what, you know. Let's talk and let's hang out and let's just make friends. And it's like, thank you very much to everyone that's been so supportive, and it's been really mind-blowing, and it's just it really just means the world to us.
Absolutely, man, absolutely. I just think it's nice to hear, because again, we talked about how much your music has touched other people, and obviously, you know, how much it drives you on a daily basis and how much you love it. And I think that really comes through, man. So hopefully, you know, people listening back to this will check out Birthmarks, again, streaming services, other stuff. Yeah, thank you so much for your time, Daniel.
No, it's been really, really nice to hang out.
Yeah, it's good, because like you know, I would have seen you over lockdown if you know, gigs would have happened and stuff. So it's nice to see you on a digital screen, and hopefully, fingers crossed, see you in a few days, man. And it's also nice to bring Kiran into this too, again, because for me it's really nice I really prefer listening to Kiran talk than listening to myself talk. I over the course of these interviews, man, I've been like, Kieran's way better than this than me. Can I just pay you to do all of my interviews now? Because you
can, and I will.
It's the voice, man. It's the voice alongside the jawline. It really works, I think, in this context. So, yeah,
that only works on video.
Yeah. But I appreciate it. But it's nice to like connect you. You know, obviously you've met before, but like again, to have a conversation. It's
what what's going on with Mary and the Ram? What's up for you guys next?
Good question. So really, not a lot right at the moment. We have some stuff that we may work on, but a lot of our attention recently anyway has been on an outfit which includes us, but it's called Moral Standing, which isn't like
this would be the first time. It's the first time we've talked about it, but it's got a really one of my favorite musicians, if not my favorite musician, from Hull, playing guitar, and also Jay from who Dan will remember from Seep Away, is working on it, and not just screaming and shouting. So it's a lot different. There's some synths in it. There's some blues. There's some synth. There's some different.
It's probably going to end up somewhere between the thing and Mary and the Ram, and I think it's to fulfill a different purpose, because Dom and I were like, we love doing Mary and the Ram stuff, and we're going to keep doing Mary and the Ram stuff, but there's not a crushing need to make more of it all the time, because we don't have a touring or a playing live agenda with it, really. Like, mainly because it's layered in such a way it would be two guys playing with lots of stuff in the background, which is completely fine. But what we wanted to get out of a live show requires like a lineup. And it's something we're certainly at the moment, and we're not in a position to put together, and haven't been historically able to put together a lineup that is consistent, that we wouldn't just be exploiting the people that we're working with, saying, oh, can you come and play these things in our lineup? We want to work with people who are passionate about it. So whereas Moral Standing the aim is to be a live act.
It's a band. It's a band. Yeah. So we're getting together at the moment. We're getting together. It's all in the pipeline, but that's what's happening. But we'll do some Mary and the Ram stuff as and when, there's as and when inspiration takes Kiran. There are songs there. We've recorded some drums, haven't we? And there are there's stuff.
There's a few songs which we could release, but it's just about I think we should tailor things personally.
Definitely. It's a long-term project, a long-term love letter. Probably to ourselves rather than anybody else, because it's stuff that I really love, and I'm not sure, but it's stuff that I really love, and we will do, because I think it's a real passion project, in it, man. Do you know what I mean? We made it happen. It did happen. We've released some stuff. We want to release more stuff, but it's an art. This sounds really pretentious. It's an art project, isn't it? So
it is, and it's also
inspiration takes whenever.
For me, it's sort of about where, I'm right at the end of a PhD. So once that's done, I get much more free. So I'm probably going to be making, and also, I'm not done with theatre per se, but the theatre industry's fucked and fucking awful to work in, if I'm honest. So unless it's 9 to 5 and you enjoy the job that you have landed in, which I have a job that is a 9 to 5 in education and theatre, and is great. And I'm really pleased, but there's so many other people that don't, and you play into the same sort of groups, and the future of it is very uncertain. And I like making music, so personally, post PhD, I fully intend to make more music and less theatre, and maybe some of what I started out doing, which was how I got into both of them, which is performance art. So,
which sounds really, really good, man. I'm really excited.
I'm doing it all with you anyway, Tom.
I'm going to hear about it. It's fine. Just before we finish off, because this is a fun question that I would like to ask. I'm going to ask you one day, Kiran, but it's one I haven't done for a while. It was one I did when I first started interviews, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, because it's a silly one. But I feel like I'm in the right group of people to ask it. So, Daniel, for those people that haven't heard Birthmarks yet, if you could come up with a Frankenstein's monster for the Birthmarks sound, so i.e. the bollocks of Trent Reznor, the bicep of a Massive Attack, and the nostrils of Placebo, I don't know, something along those lines. What would be the Frankenstein's monster for the Birthmarks sound?
I just got an image of Trent Reznor's bollocks now, man.
I mean, that's you, man. That's not. I didn't put that. I mean, it's all good. You went there. I didn't.
Okay. That's what I was thinking. The groove, I guess, would be the spine. So the spine would be 90s hip hop, so stuff like Mobb Deep and stuff like that. The muscle would be electronic-y stuff, so stuff like Health. And then the tears would just be all us.
Tears. Yeah, like it, man. Like it. Good stuff. Well, thank you so much for your time. I know we've gone a little bit over our allotted hour, but it's an absolute pleasure to spend time with you. Hopefully, I'll see you soon, Daniel. Kiran, I'll be in touch with our next plans shortly.
Cool. Sick. Thank you so much for coming and talking, man.
It's been a real pleasure. Thanks very much.
Cool.
Enjoy the gig. Both of you enjoy the gig, and I'm sorry I'm not there. Have a great time though.
Nah, man, we'll do it again. There's always another time, hopefully. Unless we die, which we're not going to die, hopefully.
Don't die at the gig. Good luck. I'll catch you all soon.
Yeah.